Hello and welcome to Motorcycle News, and welcome to the £17,199 KTM Super Duke GT. So I've been very fortunate, and this is actually my long-term test bike for 2020. I've had this bike now for around about 2.5 weeks. I've done about 2,300 miles on it, commuting, doing weekend work, and also going up and down motorways to places like Brands Hatch. So this video is not going to be a sort of first ride and review. This is going to be my key first impressions on the bike since taking delivery of it around 2.5 weeks ago. So the reason that I opted for KTM's 1290 Super Duke GT for this year is because I'm sort of the sports bike persuasion. You know, I love sports bikes, I love super nakeds, I love track days and all that sort of goodness. However, I'm acutely aware for 90% of the time you might want to be on something else, but then for that 10%, they're fantastic, they're brilliant to ride, they're a real experience and a real assault on your emotions. However, this KTM on paper will give me the other 90% and keep the sports bike charm as well. And I say that because underneath this enormous 23 litre fuel tank we've got a massive 1300cc V twin engine which produces in the region of 173 horsepower and just over 100 foot-pounds of torque. Now running it in you have to keep it below 6,500 revs and you can't use full throttle. However, once I'd achieved the first service at around 621 miles and finally unlocked it and opened the taps for the first time, I was absolutely blown away. This thing absolutely eats roads for breakfast. It's an overtaking weapon. You've got grunt in every gear to just pull away, get past vehicles, and you know, on an empty road like the one we are on now, it's an absolute scream. It also sounds absolutely fantastic thanks to this exhaust. Now I don't really know how this has managed to pass Euro-friendly regulations because it sounds the absolute bee's knees. It sounds like a muscle car from the 60s, and trust me, when you get past sort of 3,000 revs, it just makes the nicest booming soundtrack. And actually combined with the super slick quick shifter, munching through those gears and getting another wave of that fantastic V-twin soundtrack is just to die for. It's just fantastic. So away from the engine, another thing that has caught my eye since I've been on the bike is actually the riding position. Now I said that I'm from a sports bike background, however I wanted something a little bit more than the focused nature of a sports bike. Now just because this has got upright bars, you're not sacrificing that sort of sporty feel. If you've come from a super naked or sports bike, you're going to feel at home on this because the pegs are quite set back. So it feels natural to be on your toes. I think it'll have plenty of ground clearance to go on a track day. You have got those upright bars, but everywhere else it feels like its Super Duke R counterpart. The beauty of this though is that you've got the adjustable plastic screen at the front to just take that wind off and mean that you can go much further than on the super naked alternative. So away from the riding position and the engine and things like that, another thing that's really caught my eye since taking delivery of the KTM is its TFT dash. Now it's real super slick, it's really nice, it's a full colour system, and it's got to be one of the nicest TFTs that I've used on any modern motorcycle. That said, I do feel that it is sometimes a little unnecessarily complicated, and what I mean by that is, you know, it's very easy to read, it's massive, it's like having an iPad in front of you, but some of the systems like your heated grips, your cruise control, stuff like that, have to be operated through the TFT screen. So, for example, if I wanted to turn my heated grips up, I've got to find it in the menus, I've got to scroll through. It takes about 10 or 15 seconds for the first couple of times you do it, and that's going to take your attention away from the road in front of you, which is really where your attention should lie. And you know, other bikes activating cruise control, it could just be done on one button, and I don't really see why it couldn't be done on this. Other things like your cruise control, you know, that's fair enough, you need to sort of see what speed you're adjusting to, that's perfectly fine. But things like heated grips, I feel could be a separate system rather than going through the dashboard. That said, while we're talking about buttons, this has got backlit switch gear, which is absolutely brilliant. I've never had that on a road bike before, and as someone that commutes every day to and from the office, you know, riding home at night time, this allows me to find exactly what button I want to press for my cruise, for things like that, for ride, all that sort of stuff in thick winter gloves without having to sort of fumble my way through and end up pressing the wrong thing a couple of times. Away from that, you've also got the practical elements. Obviously, I mentioned the cruise control. It's got plenty of comfort. It's got this big 23-litre tank as well, so you can get a comfortable 220 miles out of a tank easy. And then if you were being much more conservative, I wouldn't be surprised if you could get the best part of 250 miles out of one of these petrol tanks. Away from that, you've also got 2 storage cubby holes down by the front forks as well, one of which has got a charging port already installed. There's also an additional power port there as well. There's also the option of installing loads of luggage on these little grab rails here. You can also get a 30-litre tank bag on KTM's Power Parts range. And actually the nice big fat upright bar at the front is really easy to mount a sat-nav to, which came in real handy when I rode down to Brands Hatch the other week for the first round of BEMSI 2020. So sometimes KTMs get a little bit of an unnecessary and I think unfair rap. You know, you've got all these things about, oh, is it going to be reliable, you know, enough dealers, that sort of thing. However, this has been absolutely perfect. There was one time at about 917 miles I got an error message on the dashboard saying LCU. Now I turned the bike off, stopped immediately, turned the bike off, turned it back on again, and it was good as gold. There was no issues, and it hasn't shown itself since. There's been no issues with the bike, and I really can't complain. You know, I've been washing the bike thoroughly every week and then giving it a midweek rinse just to get rid of some of the winter crud, but besides that, it's been good as gold. You know, there's no surface rust at all. The chain has needed very minimal maintenance. It went really slack at about 300 miles as it sort of stretched out during the running in phase, and then after that it hasn't needed to be adjusted at all. You know, you look after it, it looks after you, and I can't wait to do some more miles on it. So thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll be bringing you more updates throughout the year as I get to know the bike more, as I do more things. I plan to take a little tour. Of course, there'll be more weekend riding, touring. We'll be hitting a few track days as well. So if you've got any questions, please leave them below. Any suggestions on what you'd like me to do with the bike, please leave them below. And don't forget to buy your copy of MCN every Wednesday to get more detailed written long-term updates too.